Hello, everybody, and welcome to PGS Treks. I am your host, and of course, we have with us tonight Julian. Julian, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I got my space martini. It's a martini, and it's taking up space, so I've called it a space martini.
I see that, and I also noticed that you are wearing a uniform that I haven't seen before, Julian.
Yes, this is my Picard Season 3 Starfleet uniform, duty uniform, and it will be making its big debut at Comic-Con this year.
It looks good. I want to see you. I want to see more. Oh, that looks fantastic.
There we go. There it is.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Julian. Wow, that is amazing. I absolutely love that, Julian. You look incredible. I can't wait to see you in that uniform. Very, very sharp. Ready to explore, Julian. Ready to explore. Go out there. What ship have you been assigned to, Julian?
The SS Mushkin. Who knows?
I've heard a lot about that ship. Certainly a lot of the rumors is that it has some special cloaking device. I don't know, Julian, but I'm not going to ask you anything about that because I know you're not allowed to talk about your mission. I just think the uniform looks great, and it's a lot of fun that you're showing us your uniform, which we've been talking about. We've been talking about Comic-Con coming up. We've been talking about it's this month. And I love how your uniform came out. Darth Plato says, do you have to keep tugging downward on the uniform, like from the next generation? Who knows?
The card maneuver. We'll find out. It's, partially because I'm sitting.
I was going to say maybe, maybe not, because the way they make these new uniforms are somewhat more figure, they kind of hug the figure a little bit more. So maybe not, Darth Plato. From what we've been seeing in a lot of the series, guys, and please do like and subscribe to the channel here. This is PGS Treks, guys. Thank you so much, everybody who is here tonight. Shout out to, of course, Tom Jr. Jackson, a moderator, collaborator, and good friend. And Julian, we had another exciting episode. I'm a little envious of this space martini of yours. We had another episode of Strange New Worlds, Julian. And there's a lot to talk about in this new episode. Certainly, let's, it's called, something about Lotus Eaters, which I thought was very funny. Yeah, it says, recap review Star Trek Strange New Worlds remembers itself in among the Lotus Eaters. I think it's very funny, and of course, a play on words about remembering, because this episode was all about forgetting, wasn't it, Julian?
It sure was. Among the Lotus Eaters, of course, kind of like playing off of Odysseus's adventures when he was trying to get back home from the Trojan War. And they found themselves among the Lotus Eaters who, if you ate of their plants, you would forget everything. And, of course, the whole 10-year trial of trying to get back to Ithaca for Odysseus was trying to stop from forgetting, to remember why he was trying to get home to Penelope. And so this is kind of a play on that. We have Pike and crew who have to head back to Rigel 7 because of the fact that it looks like they may have done some contamination when they were last there. And of course, we are, if we know our history on Trek, the original Cage episode had them, just the last mission had been on Rigel 7, where they incurred some casualties, including the captain's yeoman, of which he was feeling very bad about, and even had him considering that he might just quit Starfleet. He was feeling so bad about it. And so they go back and they have to clean up their mess because apparently they left some contamination on the planet in the form of somebody created a garden with Starfleet Delta Shield emblem on it, and they thought, well, okay, we left something behind. Starfleet orders them to go back and clean up their mess, and they get there it's Pike and Luan and Dr. Mbinga, and we notice that things are starting to happen weird already. That Luan is experiencing memory loss. She doesn't remember the miles that they trekked from the shuttle to the point before they entered down into the castle area. And they don't think to do anything about that because, hey, it's natural for somebody to just forget hours of walking.
Julian, you missed a huge part of this, Julian.
What did I miss?
They're on their way to an EDM event, Julian, okay? And as typically happens, you get to the venue at the beginning, you have a drink, and by the time you get there, you cannot remember anything, Julian. You just keep going with it. This is what happened to them. It's a metaphor for that type of thing. They've just got to keep going. And the mission is just retrieve your stuff. You went to the wrong tent. You got to get your stuff back. That's what I interpreted this to be. That's not what do you think might be going on with this?
I don't remember hearing any thumping bass. But nonetheless, before they can even, get into the area, they are approached by some of the inhabitants, the Kalar, and they are sporting phaser rifles. So this is not a good thing. They know who they are. They know they're from the Federation, and they take them to the castle, where we find that the captain's yeoman is still alive.
But Julian, you missed. But wait a minute. You forgot the FOMO.
Whoa, yeah.
Being on one of these ships, you get FOMO. You're cruising the galaxy. You're going to the ends of the galaxy. You're seeing all sorts of incredible things. And you have FOMO.
Yes, our dear helmsman Erica is excited because she gets to go on the away team until they realize that they need to move away from the planet, and they're going to have to deal with an asteroid run that's too dangerous for the ship to just be there. Apparently, there's no one else on the Enterprise who can drive the ship. I don't know if the writers have ever served in the military or in the Navy, perhaps. You have more than one helmsman on a ship. Certainly there would be at least 3 or 4 helmsmen whose primary duty is to drive that ship because of shifts, because you can't be there 24/7.
Hold up. It's not autopilot at night? I thought it was autopilot. And so, no.
No,
so
no autopilot.
10 pilots on the ship, right? At least 10, who can do that.
Yeah. So anyway, she doesn't get to go. She has to drive the ship.
Yeah.
So she's sad that she doesn't get to go, and Pike promises her the next time they do a landing party, she'll be able to go. And, but, accordingly, assuming that what they're telling us is true, she is the only one who can drive the ship, so she'll never be able to leave the Enterprise.
She will never get off. They won't even let her resign or retire because
you chained to the helm. There is Erica, poor Erica. She's chained to the helm. But anyway, this dude here, Zach, apparently is the yeoman that Pike had when they were last year on Rigel 7, and he thought that Zach had been killed with the rest of the landing party when they had to escape. Apparently, Pike, I remember in season 2 of Discovery, and Pike made this big statement about how Starfleet was a promise to its members that we would, do everything for our fellow crewmen and all this kind of stuff. We were family. Apparently not that day. Apparently they left all the bodies. And all the equipment, which, yes, he does mention, he's like, well, we were kind of trying to get off the planet, so I didn't do an equipment check to make sure we had everything. Apparently they left, a crate full of Starfleet stuff, tricorders, phasers, and all sorts of things. So, consider Prime Directive really royally screwed.
Yeah, this is one of those cases. I mean, it obviously it wasn't covered up, but I know I wonder. It really, this poor fellow, when you saw him, he kind of came off as a little bratty. It was a little odd, Julian. He didn't seem like a grown up even. Uh, you know, it was like an episode of, I don't know. It was like it's something out of, he felt like he was in high school almost. I mean, this is a whole planet that he's running, but there was something about the way that he's kind of in charge of it. It didn't quite seem very, I don't know. It just felt very juvenile, his attitude. And he could have actually taken over the planet and done something amazing with the planet if he wanted to, I guess. But that was the thing that was so odd, was that, I mean, when we see him in the episode, right, Julian, he's in charge, isn't he?
Pretty much. That's what we're led to believe. But he's feeling pretty butthurt about being left behind by the captain, and beyond whatever, we're starting to see that there's some sort of influence around the planet that's affecting our main characters, our cast. And Zach tells them exactly that there is something about the radiation here, and they're going to start forgetting things. I find this odd because we come to find out that the castle itself is shielded from this radiation because of the stone that it was made with. And they're in the castle, and Pike starts blanking out. So it's like, why? They're in the castle. It shouldn't be affecting him at all. But
Julian,
apparently it is.
That ringing noise is exactly what happens when you hear loud music. I don't know
Well,
about
that's
radiation.
true. It affects your eardrums, and yep.
That tinnitus. In fact, that's the first thing that she was diagnosed with is this tinnitus. We had the music too high in the shuttle. You're going to be fine. Like you said, Julian, that's the first thing they thought of, is that it had to be tinnitus. I mean,
they should have gone straight back to the shuttle, but oh well.
Well, it continues on where perhaps maybe, and I don't think I have a picture of it, but it was really my favorite part was when they were kind of caged up. Like it looked kind of, I wasn't quite sure if it was something out of Planet of the Apes, or, it's like, or cage dancing or whatever this is supposed to be. This was, it's like, well, who are you? I don't know. Who are you? And, the paranoia and all that sort of stuff.
And the fear. Yes, the fear.
I wasn't sure what they were going to have to become. They're out in the snow, but, there's snow on the ground or whatever material that is. And, they're kind of kept in there. And, it was unusual and very different. And I wasn't quite sure whether there were, something was going to happen to them, some commodity or something, but this might be my favorite scene in the story. Seeing everybody in the cages. I don't know. I just have to say that the guy who comes by and kind of taps on the cage door and says, "Hey, don't worry, everything's fine, everything's cool, everything's great. You don't have to remember anything." I mean, he sounds like kind of like a somebody who's like, I don't even want to say necessarily what he sounds like. He's way too okay with the way things are when things look all messed up. Like it doesn't look like a happy place to live, Julian.
I guess since he's been there his whole life, you might as well consider him institutionalized to the situation that he's in. Mm-hmm. It's what he knows. It's what he's experienced his whole life being there. And other than, this new guy who shows up and is ruling over them with this weapon, because apparently an asteroid from that asteroid field impacted the planet, thousands of years ago in their past, and is emitting this radiation field that is causing this. It's affecting their mind, their memory. It's very selective, apparently. They can't remember details, but things that are emotionally close to them, they kind of know something about it or feel something about it, know that it means something. They're not sure what. This guy's smart enough that he has these tattoos on his arm to help him remember every time. So it's kind of almost like what is that movie with I can't remember that movie. Memory with Guy Pearce. I think it was a Singer movie. You know the one I'm talking about, where every day he wakes up and he can't remember what happened the day before. So he's got tattoos all over his body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Julian, what's so fascinating about that storyline with the tattoos is that he has the tattoos, and at some point, and I'm not even quite sure why, he covered up some of them, Julian.
Oh yes. Apparently, they were about his family or something. So he was trying to forget because it hurt too much.
So I guess you're not completely immune from having pain and emotion in this world where you conveniently forget what you were doing. You know, there's a lot of us who forget what we were doing. Oh, Memento. Thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson. Memento.
Oh yeah, Memento. Yeah.
Apparently, there's a lot of us who get up and go into one room, from one room and go to the other, and we've already forgotten shit anyway. So, so I don't know what the story is with this, but I don't know.
All I can say about this is that I kind of knew pretty early on that it's like, okay, the memory thing doesn't seem to be bothering the guy from the Enterprise from like 3 or 4 years ago. He knows exactly who Pike is and what the Federation is, and he's been waiting for him. So something is keeping them safe from the radiation, and I'm like, I bet it's in the castle. Whoa, what a surprise. It ends up being in the castle, and if you go outside, and I said, oh, I bet those helmets are made out of a material that controls, keeps their head from getting radiation. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Do the writers know how radiation actually propagates and works?
Have they ever seen the X-Men? I don't know what they've seen. I have no idea. I think that if the radiation can permeate the Enterprise's shields.
Well, yeah. So here's our B story.
Doing whatever.
Our B story involving the Enterprise itself. While this is going on, because we find out basically that Pike's decided, well, we need to get in the castle because whatever is there is going to help us figure out how to remember everything. So that's the plan. But we find out that the radiation is affecting them on the Enterprise too, through their electromagnetic shields for some reason, because they don't recognize the wavelength of radiation. You would think that their sensors would have picked something up.
Or you would think they would put in voice commands so that they would remember what they were supposed to be doing on the ship. And if anything happens to me, computer authorization, please go ahead and make sure that life support isn't turned off, or, like all these sort of important things as voice commands. At least we got to see something I've always wanted to see, Julian, which was when she was looking for her quarters and the ship was like, follow the lights. And I'm like, that's how they do it in the Enterprise. I should have known this. I should have known this. Now I'm not worried. If I ever get trapped in a starship, I can just say, where on earth are my quarters? Deck 5, room 360. Thank you. And then you can get there, Julian. I'm not even going to worry about the next time I go on a starship getting lost anymore.
Well, that's good. It's ironic, though, that, their intent was to get away from the radiation field around the planet, which they thought, well, this is kind of strange. So Spock thinks, oh, well, the asteroid should have plenty of mineral deposits that will shield us from the radiation. Unfortunately, as we find out later, the radiation is in the asteroid field itself. And so they drive themselves right into smack dab into the middle of the radiation field. Uhura starts coming down with it. It's like gang fire, and it starts affecting everybody until suddenly nobody can remember anything of what they're supposed to do. Our FOMO, Erica, she says, I gotta go because this is freaking me out. So she leaves, goes back to her quarters after the computer helps her. It's strange that nobody else thought to ask a question and have the computer answer them, but the computer must love Erica a lot more than anybody else. And she gets back to her quarters and is like huddled in a ball at the foot of her bed and is asking all these questions. And hey, the computer can tell her everything. Hey, you're supposed to drive the ship. She's like, oh, I drive the ship. I don't remember how to drive a ship, but I drive the ship. So she decides, and not only that, but they're getting knocked by asteroids because nobody's driving the ship.
Apparently, the ship is just getting knocked around. There's no escape protocol on the ship that's automatically programmed to the ship to avoid asteroid fields. I think it would have pulled them out of it. I don't believe that the ship would have been like just on its own, gone ahead and just, you know, fly in random. I just don't believe that. I think, you know, and as I said, you know, Julian, I just don't believe that the ship would on its own allow itself to get damaged that way. But that's just how I think about it. I think starships are incredibly smart machines and that they wouldn't willingly just, you know, get hurt. And it would say, you know, maybe steer away or recommend whatever. And if it didn't get a response from anybody at a console, it would steer away from certain things. That's what I believe. This is, you know, just me personally, but especially with such a dangerous location as an asteroid field. But
well, I'll tell you, RM, that it would be nice to think that by the 23rd century, or 22nd century, they figured this out. 23rd century, that they have something like that on their ships, but we haven't been given any evidence that they do have anything like that through all the years of Trek that I've watched. Not in a major situation like that where they've actually driven themselves into the asteroid field on purpose.
But we didn't hear any of the prompts. The shields are down. This is all we heard was like the red alert.
I don't think the shields were actually down. If the shields had been down, they would have been affected a lot quicker. The deflector shields are there to protect them from electromagnetic stuff as well as get light spatial debris out of the way of their travels. But
yeah,
they actually drove themselves in there while they were under control.
Yes, but what I'm saying is we didn't hear any prompts about anything. All we saw was like the red alert. And normally the ship would say, so-and-so is offline, or such and such is at 50%, or, you know, like the ship communicates back to the crew. Like it does that, doesn't it?
Only when they need it to. This is the problem we have with stories sometimes. If you're not thinking about it, it's like, you go, well, wouldn't the ship do this? It's like, well, we can't have it do that because that would affect the story. So it's not going to do that. When it becomes obvious like that, then it's part of the bad writing. But anyway.
But Julian, I think one of my favorite parts is the beginning, because we have Ortega who says things. And I think somebody in the chat mentioned, I am Erica Ortegas. I am the pilot. I am Eric Ortegas. I am the pilot. After a while, but in the beginning of the show, where it starts off with, she's like, hey, I'm the pilot. I think you could substitute pilot for writer. You know, like whoever wrote this could say, I am so-and-so, and I am the writer of Star Trek. Yeah, I do write stories, and it gets kind of boring. But sometimes, you know, we get to do things, crazy episodes like this one, I guess. I don't know. But it did kind of feel very, you know, unusual in that sense, where she's so positive of who she is, or knows who she is in the beginning. Now she gets amnesia, doesn't know who she is.
Where did number one disappear to? She
got amnesia, and apparently she never remembered any of this shit. So she's feeling great.
It's just, you know, she conveniently is no longer on the bridge and she's gone. It's like, where did she disappear to? We didn't even follow her. It was like Spock and Erica, and then they're forgetting everything. Spock tries to come up with pads with their information on them, but of course they forget how to read. So, you know,
they remembered how to speak.
Yeah, it is kind of odd. They remembered those. One would think that for those who weren't from Earth, they might start talking in whatever, language that they speak if they're an alien. And we didn't see that. But, one of the things that bothered me is, again, like I said, there's more than one helmsman on the ship. And wouldn't it have been interesting for Erica to go, where are the rest of the helmsmen? Who are the other helmsmen? What if they had all the helmsmen get together and try and figure out how to save the ship? That would have been interesting to me. But
it could have been like some kind of cool, like scientific deduction kind of thing. And, rather
Instead
than
of,
forget everything, they could forget some very important things, or key people could have been struck. And I just don't know whether everybody would have been affected the same way, but that's what they decided to do. Everybody's affected. Except
what if they had a Cation on board, or what about Mr. Eriks, who's got the 3 arms? It's like, if he was on board the ship, maybe aliens don't get affected by the radiation the same way. Maybe it affects them a little bit differently, but then they could have got together and go, hey, I know what's going on. We're going to have to fix this, but no, You know what, Mike Lito? I think the shields were on, because if they weren't, then those asteroids would have gone right into the hull, and there would have had some major structural damage. So the shields were on; they were stopping the asteroids.
Nobody was home.
Yeah, but nobody. The shields were on, and nobody's home.
Guys, make sure you subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel, guys. Do like and subscribe. Let's get his subscriber numbers up, everybody. Support Tom Jr. Jackson. He's in practically every stream. You guys know him. He's such a fantastic person. And of course, the moderator here tonight. Thank you, Tom. Guys, make sure you subscribe to his channel. The shields are up. Nobody's home. It's So what do you think about his relationship with Patel and that whole thing?
So, that this episode really only served Pike as far as, going forward anything, even trying to center the story on, partly on Erica, who was missing the fact that she didn't get to go on the away mission. It really didn't do anything for her, because we already know that she's the helmsman, and she gets to remember that she's the helmsman and she gets to save them. But she's not learning anything new about it. Pike has to deal with his old history of losing crew members on Rigel 7, and he also has to deal with the fact that he's in this relationship with another captain that we've seen on and off. We've seen her show up, and she was last seen being the one who was working for the JAG, having to bring the charges against Una. And they're both discussing how tough it is, and at the beginning of the show they were trying to get a little bit of alone time, and they get a call from the Admiralty, and apparently she has been passed over for promotion, and Pike blames himself for her association with them, and decides maybe we should kind of cool things off for a while after she's given him this nice little gift about, for captains finding their way home. I don't know. Maybe it would have been great if he had forgotten how to cook. Then we wouldn't have all these scenes of him in his huge, lush kitchen.
I think it would have been great if he was just wearing the apron, but
just the apron.
That's just my point of view about it. I mean, I'm happy that he's
the food and the apron.
Yes. And I'm so glad he's not cooking for the whole crew every night. This was getting to be too much. And I think he was wearing himself out, if you know what I mean. It was just too many people there. And he needs some time to recover. And I think Patel was fantastic for him. I don't want to think, no, Mike Alito, it is not strange enough for me. As I've said, it's not strange. Strange, it is expecting alien strange, some different, unusual things like that. But I think that this woman that he's involved with, and him saying that he's hurting her chances for promotion, that's kind of a big comment, Julian. What do you think about that?
Well, on one hand, he could, there may be something to what he's saying, but he's by making that decision, he's kind of he's taking away her, her ability to make decisions for herself, right? That's her decision to make. If she decides that that's what's happening, she has the decision to say whether she wants to stay in the relationship or not him. And he shouldn't be the one saying, I think we should break up because I'm hurting your chances at promotion. It's her decision to make. And so he was in the wrong for saying that. But, it was a good thing that she gave him that gift and he decided to take it with him on the away party, there, because during their time on the planet, he remembers the medallion and he knows that it's special and there's something about it that is important to him, that later on when he finally manages to get himself into the castle and take, command of the situation, he kind of credits that medallion with helping him find his way home.
Yeah, he really did. El Chiza says a Vulcan wouldn't have passed her over for promotion as revenge. It's something to think about. And I think that, I think, yeah.
Like the Jedis, right? Revenge is not the Vulcan way.
Yeah, this is really something else. It really is something else. But we didn't see the Kane's character come on and lose her memory. But that's okay. I think that then it might have been a little too goofy if she had lost her memory. However, it was an experience. Now he's taking this guy back. He's taking the ensign back to start.
Yeah, that guy's in for a world of hurt.
I mean, I think he was shocked. What did he think was going to happen? That the captain wouldn't figure out what was going on? I mean, he's going back to Starfleet. And even if the captain didn't figure out what was going on, he left a big symbol that looks like, the whatever that symbol is supposed to be, the Starfleet triad or whatever they're going to call it. It screams, hey, come look at me. Someone was bound to find this. Why does he want to bring on this huge situation? He put it there on purpose, right, Julian?
Well, I've only watched it once, but the dialogue that he was saying, it almost sounds like he didn't do that on purpose. That the locals who had taken him, that were under him, had decided to do it as an honor to him. That it was basically you're our lord, or and here we honor you with the symbol that has saved those of us who live in the castle. We're lucky to be in the castle with you, remembering our memories, so we're going to honor you. So it almost sounds like he had no choice. He makes it sound like he had no choice. It's like if he was to go against their wishes, they would have pounded him into sand. And so they never really explain how this came to pass, how this happened, other than he had technology and he was able to remember his memories a little bit. There's an awful lot of story there that we don't know of how if he was outside and left for dead, how did he gain his memories back? Why did they bring him into the castle? Unless it was like they brought him in and they said, show us how to work this stuff.
Well, yeah, that's true. And, I always thought that the Lotus Eaters were, where they were kind of, it was an enjoyable thing for them because they were high, and, they were pleasure seekers. am I interpreting Lotus Eaters wrongly? Isn't that what the Lotus Eaters are?
Well, you could look at. I've never really delved that much into the meanings that are being implied with that part of the story, and of course, there's always people who are going to go through the story and kind of imply meanings for whatever type of thesis that they're trying to come up with. But I think the other thing, specifically because with Odysseus, he's trying to get home. They're coming home from war. There's lots of things that they probably don't want to, remember. And I think in the case of the Lotus Eaters, the wish to lose oneself in forgetfulness is almost more of a statement of not wanting to deal with your past or your pain or whatever. There might be some enjoyment that you get from it, but it's the same narcotic anesthetizing type of thing that a lot of people who are suffering from PTSD and other types of things seek to not remember it by getting high or getting drunk or taking narcotics. It's the same type of thing. It's no longer a thing. Perhaps at one point it was, I'm just doing it because it's fun, but a lot of times it's because you just don't want to remember. You just don't want to remember what's going on. And a lot of Odysseus's journey is remembering, trying to remember that he has a reason that he is trying to get home. So, he was gone for like 20 years. So it's amazing his wife is still there waiting for him. But be that as it may, that is part of the whole theme of him trying to remember. And of course, naturally, something that causes you to forget is going to be a big, block in your way of trying to get home, or trying to make sure that your crew remembers that their duty lies with you and trying to get back home instead of just staying there and forgetting everything else just so you can be comfortably numb.
Well, I don't blame them for wanting to get back to the ship because those where their quarters are, like, it looks really good. It looks like a really cool apartment. And I get it. Like when we saw Ortega's apartment, her ship's quarters, it was remarkable. I was like, wow, this is incredible looking. And as you already mentioned, the captain already has like a full, 5-star kitchen in his quarters.
This Lieutenant Ortega, she has quarters that are bigger than my whole freaking 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. And I'm like, why would you want to leave the ship when you have such great quarters as that? Just go back to go back to your quarters, relax, have parties like the captain has, and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a very, I don't know how to even describe this episode. Yeah, maybe just the shields are up and nobody's home. That's what it is. It's yeah, it's something else. And I know Robert said that as you and I were discussing, if I didn't say it already, was why does it seem that Spock is always blamed for everything? And yeah.
Yes. Ortega makes that backhanded remark about, I don't blame Spock, he's young. I'm like, get the hell out of here. He was going on the best information that they had as far as trying to avoid the radiation. But my question is, how is it that when they were there last, their tricorders didn't pick up the electromagnetic radiation band that was causing this? It's like, do we know how sensors work? Do we know how tricorders work? It's like, there's not just something, it's like, they're picking up all sorts of stuff. If they're scanning for all this stuff. Now, either the people that were supposed to be doing that on their tricorders when they were last there weren't doing their job, or it's like they should have picked this up the last time they were there. Apparently they didn't, but they should have, because we know that this asteroid landed a long time ago. So the effects would have been the same. I don't know. These are the things that, it's like, it's hard to really invest in what's happening. It's a show to watch, and sometimes it's fun, but it's hard to invest in believing that these people are professionals who know their job, because they don't behave like it. They don't behave like it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even, I'm just, yeah. So, yeah, another episode of Strange New Worlds, episode 4. Another episode down. How many episodes in the season? Is it 8?
10. We only have 6 left. And one of them is going to be a crossover with cartoons, and another is going to be a wedding party, engagement party for Spock and T'Pring. I don't know. Apparently, we're going to see the darn Gorn again, if the trailers are to be believed. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
apparently Kirk's going to come aboard the Enterprise, also based on the trailer, because number one's going to notice that that Luan gets a little hot under the collar when she sees Kirk show up. Sorry.
Everybody's hot under the collar. I hope we actually see something happen there. As I said, I'm still in that team building. I'm still on that team building, that corporate team building trip with that one, Julian. I'm still on that team building trip, and I'm not falling, because no one's going to catch me. So, I don't know what to think about that. But I also wanted to mention this other bit of news, which I'm sure you've already seen, Julian. And it has to do with, of course, oops, not that. I lost my screen. And you can still hear me, right, Julian?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm talking about this, guys. Let me just make sure. Okay, good. About William Shatner on Star Trek II from the Greatest Geek Year Ever 1982 docuseries. And of course, William Shatner is in this. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is this not the same series that Robert is in? I think he also talks in this series as well. 1982, the Greatest Geek Year Ever docuseries. It's got 4 parts. Robert also makes some commentary on it as well. And, thank you, Irene. Thank you for the $2 super chat, saying just trying to catch you. Thank you so much, Irene. Hope you are well. And I hope you are feeling better, my dear. It's so great to see you, Irene. Thank you for your generosity, saying just trying to catch you. Well, you are catching me, Irene. I'm going to be on later again tonight at midnight. But it is wonderful to have you here. And thank you, Tom. Thank you as well. I so appreciate both of you. I catch you right back at you. So JH Edit says Shatner has the Holy Grail. Yeah. So are you not surprised by William Shatner being in this series, Julian?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Yes, this is the documentary that I also contributed to, and I'm really excited to see it and see what they've put together. Yes, they got not only Shatner, but yes, Nicholas Meyer as well, talking about the show. And of course, Shatner worked with both Mark Altman and Robert on Free Enterprise. And so I don't think they had to work that hard to get him to come on and talk about it a little bit. And I'll be excited to see how he, remembers and talks about his adventures with that, because, of course, Wrath of Khan was one of the greatest geek movies that year to come out. For me, my top 3 for me was Wrath of Khan, Blade Runner, and Conan the Barbarian. Although there were so many others that were wonderful that came out. So yes, this they decided to show it over 4 nights on the CW, It'll be premiering tomorrow, the 8th, on CW, and you can also see it like the day after it premieres on the CW app, which is free to get, apparently. I need to see if it's going to be available on my Hulu. See if I'm able to get it through that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get the app because they haven't sent out the Blu-rays and the CDs yet, as far as for the perks and stuff like that. But I am looking forward to seeing this. They're also going to be talking about it. They'll be having a panel at Comic-Con this year. Mark told us that most of the Trexpert stuff was going to be Thursday night of the convention, and I've located one of the Trexperts panels, but this one might be under a different name, so it's a little bit different trying to find. They've only released Wednesday and Thursday night so far as panel, what's going to be in the rooms. So, but this should be good. They got a lot of information. A little, you know, one of the things they did, it's off track, but what was the movie with Michael Keaton and Henry Winkler where where
they run an escort service
out of the morgue? Yes. Ron Howard directed that, and they were able to get Ron Howard to talk about it. Henry Winkler talked about it, and Henry Winkler had made home movies behind the scenes as they were making the movie, and nobody but his family had seen any of this stuff that he made, and he gave it all to the guys for the docuseries. And so it's going to be like the first time that a lot of people are going to be able to see this. So that's kind of cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is
very Night Shift, was that Shift?
Does it say it in the chat what it's called? Night Shift. Thank you guys. Thank you, Tom. Night Shift. Yeah, and Turner Classics showed it the other day, Julian, and I DVR'd it, and I have it on my DVR, and it's Shelley Long is in it, right?
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, and so that is also very interesting. So it's going to be fun to see this, Julian, this 1982 docuseries. I was hoping to do something on the channel here, but I'm not quite sure how. Maybe, yeah. Agreed. The night shift tinted window scene is the best. Absolutely. Maybe we'll do something on the channel about this docuseries. I don't know, but it's 4 parts, right, Julian? Yeah.
They broke it up into 4 parts, I think. So, they tried to edit it down, and they ended up at something that was around 2 hours, 44 minutes or something like that. And there was like no way they were going to be able to release that as a single movie, even though there are those of us who would have been happy to sit there and watch it. But, CW approached them and said, hey, what do you think about trying to do this as a mini series on the channel? And one of the things they did was they changed it from, it used to be 1982, the greatest geek year ever, and CW asked them to change it. They changed it to Greatest Geek Year Ever, 1982. So Scott Mantz was on John Roca's show the other night, and he was talking about how the possibility exists of them being asked to create more shows like this that would, spotlight specific years through the 80s, perhaps, when all these movies were kind of rolling out. A lot of other movies later on through the year. So he was Scott Mantz, who was one of the creators of this documentary, this docuseries, was kind of excited about the possibility of something like that happening. So we could see more shows like this coming out in the future.
Absolutely. Sean Hoover, hi Sean, says, especially when Big Sis worked at the local theater. Nice to see you here, Sean Hoover. And Mikey Lito says, thank goodness they're having something at Comic-Con. Yes, Mikey Lito, thank goodness. Of course, they're going to have a lot going on, because for me, the main reason why I go to the cons is to see friends. That's my main purpose for going. It's a bonus, all the other stuff that's there. But a lot of times we don't get to see everybody every single, week or whatever. I mean, you're lucky if that's the case, but a lot of times we see each other at cons. So it's a big thing for the community to be able to get together at cons periodically and hang out and have a good time. So for me, that's my, as I've always said, my main thing. And maybe, who knows, we'll figure out, a four-part series is a long thing to have. You could do a watch party on it, but I'm just trying to figure out how that would be done since it premieres tonight. I'm sure a lot of people are already watching it. So
no, tomorrow night on the 8th.
Oh, right. On Saturday. That's right. Yeah. Today's the 7th. So, it's going to premiere tomorrow night. Yeah, it should be interesting. Yeah, Tom Jr. Jackson. It would be cool. The 80s had a lot of iconic films. And he says, Comic-Con going back to its core roots of being focused on. Yes. Woo-hoo! Yeah, exactly. So
I think Paramount is going to be there. I haven't seen what they made, but I also know Roddenberry Productions is going to be doing some stuff there on Thursday night, and they've got some of the writers from the Star Trek IDW comics are going to be there doing a panel talking about writing Star Trek comics. So, JH, it's a possibility he may be showing up. As far as I know, DC is still going to be presenting. They got that free reign because no Disney, no Marvel, no Lucasfilm. So they should make the best of it if they can. Hopefully.
Agreed. And of course, guys, you can watch the clip on here. That's what this is about. And very insightful comments, Julian. So guys, make sure you check out It Was a Great Year to Be a Geek. Yes, I probably was the same age as this child in 1982. So it was a great year to be a geek. It was a great year, Julian, for everything, really. Comics were like 75 cents, Julian. They were like 75 cents an issue. You could afford it. Like, you could get things like that. You could buy certain things like that. It wasn't out of reach. I remember going to the 7-Eleven near me had a comic book stand on it, there. And you could get all these different comics. And that's where I bought my V comics, which I still have them. They're not in great shape, but I still have those V comics. And I also remember buying it's a baseball card, but it's not for baseball. It's a trading card, I guess, for Star Wars. And I still have those.
I got a bag with a whole bunch of the Star Wars trading cards. I really should pull it out and like put them in a book, but they're in a chest up in storage right now. So
yeah, but it was inexpensive, right, Julian? I mean, like, you could go to
it was gum packet. Yeah,
it was wonderful. It was a great time. Everybody's talking about how old they were in 82, but it was a very special year, and certainly something to think about, guys. So tomorrow premieres for those of you who contributed to it, just like Julian. Well done. I didn't contribute to this one. I should have done that, but the greatest geek year ever sounds amazing. It's going to be an amazing it's going to be an amazing series. El Chizo says he was one, and JH says that they were one.
I was like 15 years old.
It's great to look back at that time, Julian. Certainly exciting. And like I said, I don't know whether I could really cover it. I don't know if I can do it, but it would be ideal, right? Like, it'd be fun to kind of watch it here on the Burnettwork and then go from there. So let's see what happens in my mind. Yeah. If I can kind of wrap my head around what's going on, it would be great. And Robert has talked about it. Robert is in that in the series. Although Robert has said he doesn't know how much he's in it, he says he was interviewed for this series. So it would be fun to go ahead and see what's going on with there. So yeah, let's talk about, I guess, before we start to talk about Harbinger, was there anything else that you would like to mention about Star Trek, Julian, before we go on to Harbinger?
The only thing I really noticed was that, on top of how they are canceling Prodigy on Paramount and Nickelodeon, is that the Crave streaming channel in Canada is losing all their Trek content except for Strange New Worlds. And that it's mentioned that in the article that Trek will continue broadcasting on the CTV Sci-Fi channel, but that the Crave streaming channel is going to lose all their Trek except for Strange New Worlds. So it's going to be harder for our neighbors up in Canada to see Trek unless they want to, unless I don't know how easily it is for them to get Paramount Plus streaming, but that is a thing. So that was the only thing that was really of note, other than, there was articles about comics, that are coming out, but I haven't really been following a lot of the Star Trek comics in a long time. So that is what it is.
All right. No, thank you for mentioning that. And I guess let's talk about Harbinger Vanguard just for a few minutes before we end the show, which it is almost 11, which I can't even believe it. Yeah. So, Julian, let's talk about what's happened in the book Vanguard, Harbinger Vanguard, which you and I are reading concurrently, although you probably finished the book already, but in chapters 12 and 13. And of course, what we're, and let's say chapter 11 was pretty much the realization that they came to the conclusion that they absolutely have to send the Enterprise because it is the closest ship. They have, first of all, they have to find out, what's going on, how all this occurred. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and reluctantly, T'Pren has to send the Enterprise, agree to it. But now there's all the other diplomatic stuff that comes along with sending the Enterprise to this. A lot of questions asked by what seems to be people, or let's say groups, that we're supposed to be at peace with. But then it's a question that's thorny. Julian, did you destroy our ship?
Right? Yes.
One way of like, did you destroy the bomb? No. Did you blow our ship up? Which I think is
yes. We opened the chapter with Ambassador Jitanian he briefs Akila Karume about meeting with the Klingon ambassador, and she goes in to meet with Ambassador Lugok. She agrees to let Jitanian come and watch her, but she pretty much demands, she said, am I in charge or not? He said yes, and she goes, okay, then follow my lead and don't say anything to undermine my authority with him. So she goes in, introduces herself with great emphasis by backhanding the Klingon ambassador, knocking him onto the table, and locks her hand around his neck. And as he tries to extricate himself, she returns his duck-tang dagger back to him, point first aimed at his crotch. This really gets his attention because she is approaching him like a Klingon and not a human. And she demands to know if they had anything to do with the Bombay's destruction, and he becomes very bored about that. He's happy to hear about it at first. He goes, yeah, we heard that. And then he's like, no, we didn't do anything about it. It wasn't us. And so they stop the meeting, he leaves and she leaves and says, well, they didn't do it. And he's like, you believe him? And she's like, you need to read the Klingons. If they had done anything, they would have been crowing about it from one end of the sector to the other. They would have been saying something, because it's not like the Klingons to just sneakily come in there and do stuff. They are a proud warrior race, and they wouldn't do anything underhanded like that. So they would have said, yep, we destroyed it. They didn't. Therefore, they did not. In the meantime, in the commissary, one of the other ambassadorial staff, Sendeo, who we know is a Klingon agent, flirts with Lieutenant Zhang while he's getting ready to go off on his trip with the Enterprise. And then we see she reports back to Lugak that the Enterprise is on its way to investigate. And then we have an interlude with the Klingon High Council, which is debating what to do with the situation. And they resolve that they need to find out what it is so special about, what is it that why is the Federation so strongly entrenched in this area to their, possible, problem, with being there, that they could find themselves fighting two fronts in some sort of a altercation, a war. So they decide, we should find out why they're here first before we really get ourselves stuck in there. One of the things that's kind of interesting is that one of the members of the council, who's a former general, is the future chancellor of the Klingon Empire, Gorkon, who will lead the Gorkon Peace Initiative that we see in Star Trek VI. So that's kind of interesting to see. We also have a mention of a counselor by the name of Duras, who is a bane to the Federation going all the way back to the years of Enterprise. His family and the Federation do not get along very well at all. So that was kind of interesting. And we find out that the current Chancellor and Gorkon do not like Gowron's family at all. They don't like the current Gowron. Or not Gowron, Duras, rather. They don't like Duras. So in Chapter 13, our scallywag Quinn is getting himself really drunk to kind of like anesthetize himself from all the pain of having been beat to crap. And also because of his guilt at the loss of the Enterprise, or the Bombay, rather, because he's feeling that guilt. Bennington meets with him in the bar trying to get information from him about the Bombay without actually coming out and saying, I know that you're involved somehow.
Yeah.
And Quinn smacks the hell out of him for trying to use him as a stool pigeon. And then Zhang, we find out, is an informant to Pennington also, who lets him know that he's heading off on the Enterprise to find out what happened at, to the Bombay. When Zhang gets on board the Enterprise, Kirk and Spock want to know information from him, and he's very reticent to give them any information about why he's on board. They're like, why are you forced on us to go on this mission? And he's like, because I was there when we set it up. And they're like, why were you there? It's a listening post, and you're the A&A officer. And he's like, because I know things. But he wouldn't tell them what was going on. So he remains kind of a mystery. And then the Board of Inquiry also begins in this chapter. And it's just preliminary stuff. And, of course, there's all the legal dancing around, trying to, set things up and trying to get it thrown out, stopped, and all that kind of stuff. And that really gets nowhere. But what it really serves to do is help us follow T'Prin. We find out a lot about T'Prin in this episode. She leaves, and she meets with Quinn, and he tells her that Pennington is snooping around. But what we also find out is some of her backstory about why she is the way she is. T'Prin was supposed to get married to one Sten, and she was not having any of it. She was forced to try and get a divorce through the Kuniti Khalifi, and she ended up killing him. But before he dies, he plants his Katra in her consciousness. So she now has this guy who wants to totally get her to submit to his will. So his will is trying to, from the grave, essentially, is trying to get her to submit. And so she's in this constant fight to maintain not submitting to the will of this dead guy. And so that kind of gives us a little bit of history on, what she's going through.
Yeah, it was another 2 fantastic chapters, Julian. Yeah, this is a great book.
Yes, it's real fun. I find myself wishing I could see it as an actual show.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that I am reading it now, because it is kind of distracting me away from, I guess, Strange New Worlds in a way. But yeah, it is a great story, and I recommend it to anybody who hasn't already read Harbinger. You've got to read this book. It is really good. And
you like TOS Trek, this would be right up your alley, because it's wonderful stuff that you could easily see happening at the same time that we see our original 3 seasons of TOS, and it goes for quite a few books, and I'm just loving this first book so far.
And I want to thank Ed Darlow for the $2.99 thumbs up sticker. Thank you, Ed. We so appreciate it. Thank you for your generosity. And thumbs up right back at you. Ed says, I love you guys, but RM try 13 comics. I will try. And thank you for the support. It makes such a difference on the channel. So appreciate it. Yeah, it's do you think they'll ever adapt it to something, Julian?
It would be, I could see, if somebody had the time and the energy to do it, I could see somebody doing some sort of a CGI, using like AI and stuff like that to throw something together. Maybe the stuff within Star Trek Online. Am I wrong in assuming that there are some people that have been throwing stuff together, like story lines in Star Trek Online?
I don't know.
They're using the engine to do that. I could be wrong, but it would be cool. I would think that somebody would be able to. Of course, it would have to be free. It would have to be a total fan thing. I don't think that there's anybody that would ever do this through Paramount, because right now the current IP custodians aren't interested in doing stuff like this. If they take things from books, they do it without even acknowledging the original authors, and they throw it into their stuff. And I just, like Rob, I find that very distasteful. So
has anybody ever put on like a Star Trek play, like a play version of Star Trek? Has that ever happened before? Because I would even go to see that. Like, I would enjoy that.
Not to my knowledge, but the closest I know of are that there are people that, like at conventions and stuff, you will see a gathering of casts from different shows. They'll get together sometimes, and they'll like table read an episode, So I know they've done that for like episodes of Enterprise, and they've done that for they did that for Star Trek 3, I think, at a convention where they had them. And I know that the guys from Dominic Keating and Connor Trenier, who are doing the Shuttle Pod show, they did that just recently in the last year up in LA, where they did a weekend where they did like 2 or 3 readings of a show, and they had a bunch of people who were guests on the show and on their show come in and read different parts from episode from the script. So I know that they're doing that, but I don't think anybody's ever put on an actual production like on the stage, which that would be interesting. And there's certainly episodes of TOS that you could do on the stage. That would be very interesting.
I want to look into doing it because I think it would be an interesting kind of twist to see some of these, if not the episodes, Julian, some of the books adapted to kind of like a stage play version of it. I think would be interesting. So I really do want to kind of look into doing something like that just for fun. You know, this is what I do. This is what we do for fun, Julian. We just decide to adapt Star Trek episodes and books for stage play. That's what we do here.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Trek Yards, which is a
Yes,
channel
I
on.
am.
Yes, well, Commander Coughlin, he does an awful lot of cosplay, and he has been very involved with actual productions of fan shows. So I know he has like one or two fan movies, productions that he's actually been involved with that they've released on like YouTube and stuff like that. And I know I've been seeing in my feed on Facebook that there's a group that's, was it Farragut, or I can't remember what the starship is, but they're doing it in kind of like Wrath of Khan period. So it's a more modern Trek. They're all wearing the Monster Maroon uniforms, and their story takes place. They've been filming that, and they're releasing scenes of them working on it. You know, they'll release pictures saying, "Hey, we got another day done of production." You know, where they're working on it. So it's nice to know that there's still people out there that are throwing together these fan productions. And I don't know if, you know, I would hope that an awful lot of our viewers have seen Star Trek Continues, which was some years ago, came out at the same time that all the hoopla with the Axanar project happened. Star Trek Continues was a brilliant, basically fourth or fifth season of Enterprise TOS. And they are one of the other sets. They are at they're down south. They're not filming at Ticonderoga at the official set. Their Neutral Zone Studios is their studio where they film, and they have a set that is set up like the Enterprise. I think it's still there in the set for use. It is built to look exactly like the TOS Enterprise sets. And people have gone in there to do filming of their own fan stuff. But the production that they did on Star Trek Continues, you can find it on YouTube. They're really good. And they had some rare guest stars on there. They even had the guy who, Michael... the guy who played Apollo in Who Mourns for Adonais, he reprised his role as Apollo in like their first episode of the series. He came in and did it. They had the daughter of the gal who, Barbara Linville, who played the Romulan commander in the Enterprise incident. Her daughter reprised her mother's role for an episode, playing the Romulan commander that her mother played, which was really cool to be able to do that. Barbara Luna was involved with it. I think they also had Gigi Edgley from Farscape came in and did a role. Jamie Bamber. They had Lou Ferrigno on there playing Erna Ryan. They had a lot of great work. I would say check it out. Check out Star Trek Continues if you have not seen it and you like TOS Trek, because they did some really good work.
All right, excellent. And before I end the show, I want to say, guys, make sure you like and subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's channel. Here is the link right here. It's in the chat. Make sure you like and subscribe to his channel, and also make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, Positive Fandom. Guys, I really would appreciate getting some more subscribers. Guys, as you know, I have my Sunday brunch show. I also do watch parties. I also do gaming on my channel, and there's a lot more coming up going forward. Also going to flash, I think Mikey Lito's link is in here as well, if I can find it. Yes, Mikey Lito Live, another member of the community, and of course here in the chat as well. Thank you everybody, for your super chats today. Thank you, Irene, for the $2 super chat. Appreciate it, as well as Ed Barlow for the $2.99 super sticker with the thumbs up. Thank you both. So appreciate it. Julian, where can people find you?
You can find me right here on the Burnettwork. You can also find me on Facebook, Julian Mushkin, and you can find me as MushJewel on that's my handle on YouTube. So,
excellent. Guys, and of course, guys, you can find me here on the Burnettwork as well as on my channel, Positive Fandom, which I hope you guys do like and subscribe. And I hope you like and subscribe here to the Burnettwork. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on PGS Treks. Julian and I will be back again next week for another episode. And of course, thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson, for moderating. We are all goof people. Thank you so much for everything. And everybody out there, live long and prosper, everybody. And guys, always remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.